The concrete was cold. I remember that most clearly about the first year, the way the cold traveled up through my boots and settled in my bones. No insulation, no windows. Just a shell of a house that someone had started building and abandoned, leaving behind exposed rebar and a hole in the roof where the sky came through. I was 21. I had $150,000 in an account my parents didn't know about. The money came from nothing dramatic, no inheritance, no lottery ticket, just years of saying no, no to dinners out, no to new clothes, no to the university they expected me to attend because I'd figure out the loans somehow. I worked through high school, worked through what would have been college years, stacked cash while living in a studio apartment with a refrigerator that hummed like a dying animal. The ruin cost $87,000. Everyone said I was insane. My mother said it over the phone, her voice carrying that particular tone she reserved for my decisions. Not angry, just dismissive, like I was a child insisting on wearing mismatched shoes. You don't know what you're doing. That's not how people do things. She meant that's not how our family does things. Our family waited. Our family let the golden child take the risks, make the moves, receive the support. Our family watched. My brother was 3 years older. He'd never worked a summer in his life. I hung drywall alone for 6 months, learned plumbing from YouTube videos that I watched at 2. When I couldn't sleep from the exhaustion, framed the bedroom walls with wood I'd salvaged from a demolition site, carrying each board myself because I couldn't afford to hire help and didn't have anyone to ask. The first time I stood in the finished kitchen, real cabinets, actual countertops, a stove that worked. I didn't cry. I just stood there with my hand on the quartz and listened to the silence. The house was quiet in a way no place I'd lived had ever been quiet. No footsteps overhead. No voices through walls. Just mine. I was 24 when it appraised at $480,000. My brother found out about the money the same way he found out about most things. Our mother told him, probably during one of their long phone calls, where she detailed my life as if it were a curiosity, a strange specimen she'd collected. Can you believe she actually did it? Little sister, all alone in that house. Of course she had help. She didn't finish that sentence, but I knew what hung in the air. Help she hadn't given, help she'd reserved for him. He'd gone through $215,000 by then. I knew because my father mentioned it once, offhand in a tone that suggested he expected me to feel sympathy. Bad investments. You know how it is. He'll bounce back. He's got vision. I'd heard that word my whole life. Vision. My brother had vision. I had stubbornness. He took risks. I made choices. He deserved grace. I deserved to figure it out. The lawsuit arrived in a thick envelope, certified mail. I read it standing in my kitchen, the kitchen I'd built with my hands, while afternoon light fell across the pages. They were suing me for stealing his legacy. The house, they argued, should have been his. The money I'd saved should have been his. Our grandparents had left a small inheritance years ago, divided equally, and somehow through logic I still don't fully understand, they'd convinced themselves that my share was rightfully his, that I'd manipulated the situation, that I'd taken what belonged to the family's real potential. I read it twice, then I set it down on the quartz counter and watched a bird land on the windowsill outside. I didn't feel angry. That's the part that surprises me now. Looking back, I felt something else, something colder than anger, a kind of settling. A recognition that this was always going to be the shape of things. That the papers in my hand weren't a surprise. They were a formal declaration of what I'd known since I was old enough to understand the way my mother's face softened when she looked at him and hardened when she looked at me. I called a lawyer the next morning, not the aggressive kind you see in movies. A woman named Patricia with silver hair and reading glasses and a voice that never raised above conversational. She asked questions for an hour, took notes, nodded. Do you want to settle? She asked finally. I thought about it. I thought about writing a check, making it go away, preserving the silence of my house. I thought about never seeing them again. No, I said. I want them to see what they actually did. The trial took 8 months. I don't remember most of it clearly. What I remember is fragments, the way the courtroom smelled like floor wax and old paper. The sound of my mother's voice describing my brother's potential as if it were a tangible asset, something measurable and real that I'd stolen and hidden. The way my father wouldn't look at me, not once, not for a single second. Patricia handled everything. She presented bank statements, pay stubs, years of records showing money earned and saved and spent on building materials. She showed them the timeline I'd bought the ruin before my brother lost his first $100,000. I'd finished the renovation before he lost the second. There was no money to steal. There was only money I'd earned, and they'd ignored. My brother testified. He looked thinner than I remembered. Softer somehow, like disappointment had worn away whatever sharp edges he'd once had. He talked about his plans, his ideas, the things he would have done if he'd had the resources. He sounded like he believed it. Maybe he did. When the verdict came, I wasn't in the courtroom. Patricia called me at home. Guilty, she said. Fraud and false claims. They'll serve time. I was sitting at my kitchen table. The same table I'd built from reclaimed wood, sanded smooth, finished with my own hands. Outside, the light was the particular gold of late afternoon in autumn. Okay, I said. There's more. Patricia said. The judge ordered restitution. You'll be compensated for legal fees and damages. It's not insignificant. I looked around the kitchen. The counters I'd installed, the cabinets I'd hung, the floor I'd laid plank by plank, kneeling until my knees ached, building something that couldn't be taken. Okay, I said again. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. I thought about calling someone a friend, maybe, though I'd never been good at keeping them close. I thought about driving somewhere, marking the moment. Instead, I just sat, letting the silence settle around me like a familiar weight. The house was quiet. It had always been quiet. I'd built it that way. Sometimes now I imagine inviting them here. Not soon, maybe years from now, after everything. I imagine my mother walking through the front door, seeing the living room with its high ceilings, the kitchen with its morning light, the bedroom where I sleep without dreaming of them. I imagine her sitting at my table, the one I built, and me across from her, saying nothing. I imagine her seeing it, finally seeing it, all of it. I imagine her understanding. Then I imagine closing the door, walking back to my kitchen, running my hand along the quartz counter that I earned with years of my life, and listening to the silence that has never once asked me to explain myself. I probably won't ever open that door. But the thought lingers.